on it, don't tell them. They gotta know it's me on it. Won't kick it on me and go for 3 on you. You couldn't guard me with the cleanest armor. I got it covered, these corners. I'm the top dog in the league, homie. Let's speak on it. This is a stretch for anybody to reach on me. Just breathe on it, don't tell them. They gotta know it's me on it. We don't kick it on and go for 3 on you. You couldn't guard me with the cleanest armor. I got it covered, these corners, like, yeah.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of D's Corner. I'm your host, D, and we are jumping into our AFC record prediction schedule breakdown. I just dropped the NFC. Be sure to go check that out. I'll leave the link in the bio. Again, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And we're going to jump right into it. Like I said, we have the AFC. We're going to do all of the AFC, but first up, we're going to start with the AFC East. They play the NFC West and the AFC South. All their teams are entering the season with some serious questions. The Pats have questions going. They're going in a new direction with a new head coach. This is something that they have not done in the last 2 decades. The Dolphins, they're dealing with a lot of injuries. They've had cap issues. They had to let players go. And that's the same thing with the Bills, who are now going to rely on a ton of Josh Allen. It's very possible they'll do a lot of 2 tight end sets. But Josh Allen lost his top 2 players, top 2 pass catchers. So we'll now see what he's able to do there. And the Jets, their main issue is going to be health. Aaron Rodgers played 4 snaps into his first year as a Jet. We saw what happened there. So, like I said, their main question is going to be health. They have a defense. They have a solid roster, but health is going to determine everything there. All right, so first up, we have the New England Patriots, and I have the Pats going 2-15, as you can see here. They're going to have a tough outing this year, in my opinion. The defense, they should lead this team because it is a young team, especially offensively. In my opinion, I don't think Drake May should start, especially early on. Allow him to sit and watch. It's going to take him some growing time, and you don't want to ruin his confidence like you did Mac Jones. You definitely don't want to go down that route again with another first-round quarterback, ruining pretty much your team, setting a lot of players back on your team and whatnot. But offensively, another reason I think they should allow him is they just don't have enough firepower. I've stated this from the beginning of the offseason. I do believe that Robert Kraft is going to allow Gerard Mayo to at least 3 seasons, allow him to build up the team within his image, which is going to allow for some continuity, allow for some growth and whatnot. So we'll see how that goes. I just don't think that he's going to be a very impatient man with all of the success he did have the last 2 decades. So like I said, I got the Pats going 2-15. I can see them stealing a few more victories here or there, and wouldn't be shocked if that was the case. But the way this division is heading, with the other 3 teams having cap issues and a lot of holes to fill, there will be a lot of holes to fill, especially coming soon with the age and with New York and Miami, and the Bills are both going to have cap issues as well. So if the Pats are able to build and they're able to grow and Mayo's able to coach, the Pats could go from worst to first within a couple of seasons. I just really believe that the AFC East is going to be way more open than it's been in the past few seasons. Next up, we have the Buffalo Bills. Sorry, Bills fans, I have you guys going 8-9. They play 7 playoff teams this year with really, really, really good defenses. You have the Ravens, the Chiefs, Niners, Texans, and Lions are all going to be tough games for the Bills. And you have to remember, the Bills lost a ton of veteran leadership. They are going to have their struggles, whether it's communication, especially on the defensive side, and there's going to be asked a lot of Josh Allen. You're going to ask him to do more with less, and I don't know that he's that caliber of a quarterback, or if he has that. Maybe the Stephon Diggs name was too big and he felt like he had to force things to Stephon Diggs. But when it came to the playoffs, especially the last few seasons, that wasn't the case, which is one of the reasons why Diggs is gone. But you're going to ask a lot of Josh Allen, especially with his number one wide receiver possibly being a rookie who seems to be a great person, a great kid. I love him, his personality. I think he suits the team well. He's a hard worker. And Keon Coleman, he just has his questions when it comes to speed, separation, and whatnot. But he should be able to win those 50-50 balls, those back shoulder fades, things like that. So he should be able to help Josh Allen a lot. But how much pressure is that on a wide receiver, a rookie wide receiver, to be your number one guy when you have to go against Jalen Ramsey twice a year? You have to go against either Kendall Fuller on the other side twice this season. The Patriots have Gonzalez. The Bills have Teron Johnson. So they have some secondaries, some solid corners that this young rookie wide receiver is going to have to go against. Sauce Gardner twice a year was the other one that I was thinking of. But Joe Brady's going to have to call some really good games to get this team to the playoffs, in my opinion. Like I said, I believe they'll go 8-9 and miss the playoffs. This is more of a reset. This is more of a reset than it is a rebuild. I think it's more like the Bills are thinking like, we loaded up and we took the biggest swing we could to try to beat the Chiefs and get there, and we couldn't do it. So instead of having to completely rebuild, you let some players go in hopes of retooling, maybe not making the playoffs this year or attempting to be competitive this year, but really trying to push forward next year with a lot of this young talent with a year of experience, a year of growth, and understanding how to be pros. So it's, like I said, you did lose a ton of veteran leadership. So that's really going to play a role in some of the losses. I think the Bills Super Bowl window, at least for this year, is closed. It's non-existent. Next up, we have the Miami Dolphins. And I know a lot of people are going to look at this record and criticize or think, but when you look at the Dolphins schedule, they play a lot of younger secondaries, and like it or not, Tua and Jalen Waddle are just too dynamic of pass catchers. This team is a track team, and they just add more speed, more explosivity, and then they picked up OBJ, who should really thrive as the number 3 and number 4 option. So the Dolphins, like I said, should be explosive like they normally are, obviously. The issue last year was they were not tough enough, especially against playoff teams. How will that translate this year? How will the new defensive staff implement a more physical sense of play or a more physical attitude? They did beef up their edge rush position, but it was more out of a necessity, with Bradley Chubb and Jalen Phillips both having season-ending injuries, and more than likely they're going to start the season on the pulp, so you're going to rely a lot on your edge position from rookies, but you do have Shaq Barrett as well. The middle linebackers are now pretty athletic veterans and should be able to at least help beef up the run and help with the loss of Wilkins. But this team is, like we know, it's going to be predicated on what the offense does, especially if barring injury, when you have Tyreek Hill, Devon Achane, Jalen Waddle, Raheem Mostert. And another thing that I think people forget is there's going to be a new kickoff rule implemented this year, which is why throughout the draft you saw a lot of more specialty guys. Any of these guys on the Miami Dolphins are capable of returning a kick. And when you give this team this much speed, this much space, they can literally win games on some special teams play here and there, which is the hopes of the NFL, I believe, of trying to bring back that excitement portion of the game. Defensively, like I said, Chop Robinson and Muhammad Kamara are going to have to lean heavily on Shaq Barrett and Jalen Phillips and Bradley Chubb in their return, like as they're rehabbing. They'll have to try to pick their brain as much as possible. The addition of Jordan Poyer gives the Dolphins another veteran in the secondaries near Jalen Ramsey, along with Kendall Fuller. They still do have Cam Smith from South Carolina, who they drafted a year ago, if I'm not mistaken. So overall, the Dolphins have a pretty decent roster, a very winnable schedule, especially early on. From weeks 13 through 18, the Dolphins played the Jets twice, San Fran, and then they have away games at Green Bay, Cleveland, and Houston. So that's a tough 6-game stretch in colder places. And like I said, we know based off history, they're not good against playoff teams or in cold weather. So, but I still have the Dolphins predicted to go 12-5 and be a playoff team. Next up, we have the New York Jets, who I have going 13-4, and I went through their schedule multiple times attempting to find losses. I really believe in this Jets roster. They have a very winnable schedule, and they won 7 games last year with the worst quarterback play in the NFL. They're not going to get that this year, whether it's with Aaron Rodgers, and those of you who believe that he'll get hurt or won't be there. Tyrod Taylor's a way better quarterback than Zach Wilson. So this is going to be a team that, like I stated earlier, it's going to be all about health. But what they did do going out and bolstering this roster, Mike Williams, yes, he's always hurt, but he gives you a red zone target. He gives you a potential deep threat. He gives you another big body, which with playing experience, Alan Lazard played terribly last year, but was that more his play or the fact that Zach Wilson was his quarterback? So if it was because of him, now you have another big body, 1-year deal, doesn't make any difference. It's a low risk, high reward gamble. Going in with Garrett Wilson, who is going to demand double coverage. This defense with Sauce Gardner, Quinnen Williams, his brother, CJ Mosley, Jermaine Johnson on the edge. This is a solid team. But one thing that, if you watched Hard Knocks last season, up until the point of Aaron Rodgers getting hurt, even after him getting hurt, especially immediately, this team had so much life, so much confidence. And as soon as Aaron Rodgers got hurt, that life went out of him. If Rodgers is able to play and one thing about Rodgers is he does not turn the ball over. We know he does not turn the ball over. So that's only going to be better. If he plays up to what he's capable of, not necessarily an MVP, if he's just an average quarterback, this team can definitely be a playoff team and have one of the better records in the AFC based off of what their defense is able to do. We know they have a running game. They are loaded at running back, especially young backs. Drafting Olu Fashanu from Penn State, now he gets to learn behind a potential Hall of Famer in Tyron Smith. If Tyron Smith goes down, he's able to step in. You should be able to still have a solid offensive line. And Malachi Corley was one of my favorite picks in the draft. He is built like Deebo Samuel, but plays like a mixture of him and a younger Randall Cobb. Aaron Rodgers thrived throwing the ball to Randall Cobb in Green Bay. So I just believe in that connection as well. They should have plenty of weapons on offense. Like I said, health is going to be their biggest question. But if the Jets remain healthy, this could be a very, very competitive team with a veteran quarterback like Aaron Rodgers. So next up, we have the AFC West. The AFC West, they play the AFC North and the NFC South this year. This division still looks like it's going to be the Chiefs' division to lose. The other 3 teams they have questions pretty much everywhere. The Raiders, Chargers, and the Broncos, they all have either new coaches or new quarterbacks. Those are very, very, very big questions. In the Raiders, since they have a new quarterback and a new coach, the Broncos, since they have a new quarterback, and the Chargers, they have a new coach. So those coaches are going to try to get their culture installed. They're going to try to get their attitude installed. Antonio Pierce said he wants to be physical. He wants to get back to the Raider way of football. So any of the finesse things and whatnot, they're going to try to, maneuver those out and get into his mindset and see how well that translates. The Chargers, they're going to move to a more ground and pound play defense team. So that's going to take these type of things when it comes to culture take time. And if the Broncos, you have a rookie quarterback, the sixth best based off how the draft played out. But some people would say he was even later, should have been maybe a second round pick. I'm not very high on Bo Nix. It's going to take a lot. You're asking a lot of a rookie quarterback with not a very good supporting cast, not a very good roster around him to do a lot. This could be a situation where in 2 seasons from now, Bo Nix could be the next Mac Jones, traded away, confidence shook because the organization and the coaching staff failed to put a team around him. So chemistry is going to be the biggest thing. And in a team, in a division with Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid, you have the best quarterback playing right now, and he has one of the best play callers, maybe the best play caller, and they have chemistry all across the board. So that's why I say this is still the Chiefs division. So first up, we're going to go with those Denver Broncos that I talked about. I believe Denver's going to have the number 1 pick this season. Based off of this schedule, there's not very many winnable games, obviously. I have them winning 1 game. I think this is going to be a frustrating season. I don't know that very many of the vets believe in Sean Payton and what he's trying to do and how he's trying to move. You got rid of a lot of good players, young players. You had to release Justin Simmons. You traded away Jerry Jeudy. We know the situation with Russell Wilson. But now, like I said, you're going to the 6th best quarterback in the draft. That is going to be a lot. I don't know that once the players start actually getting into the games and things start getting real and they see some bonehead decisions that Knicks makes, that their confidence is just going to get shot. And they're going to be like, this is it. This is done. This is a terrible team. They did try to help ease him along by getting his number 1 target from college. But again, you traded away Jerry Jeudy. So that's going to be frustrating. This Broncos country, we will not be riding this year. They're not a top roster. Like I said, I don't see very many wins. They play the Panthers, which could be their lone win. Like I stated, the Broncos do not have enough, and they're still paying Russell Wilson, so they even have cap issues. But they play them in week 2, so that could be a revenge game for Russ. Let's see. 3 of their first 4 games are against tougher defenses who can stop the run and get after the quarterback, which is not a good thing when it comes to your rookie quarterback. Him starting the season under fire could end up like Sam Darnold, where he's seeing ghosts. They have games against the Jets, the Steelers, the Ravens, the Bengals, the Browns, and the Chiefs, obviously. These are just games I don't see the Broncos being able to truly compete. Maybe their quarterback grows, the game slows down for him, but his decision-making, especially when he was in the SEC, it was just not good. Maybe the Broncos can steal 2 wins, maybe 3. But like I said, I think this is going to be the team drafted number 1 overall, either attempting to get a haul for the pick or looking for whatever quarterback comes their way. This could be a situation like Arizona when they drafted what's the kid? Josh Rosen. So next up, we got the Las Vegas Raiders. Head coach Antonio Pierce has his opportunity to put his mark on this team from top to bottom, and it's looking like Gardner Minshew is going to be his starter in week 1. They did lose Josh Jacobs. How they have questions along the offensive line, so that's going to lead to a questionable running game. So you have to see how that works. They open up with 2 away games, playing the Chargers and then the Ravens. Those are going to be some physical games. They do host the Panthers and the Browns, and then travel to Denver. Going into week 6, the Raiders should be, in my opinion, about 2-3 at best. Antonio Pierce, he's going to have the team playing hard and playing physical. That's what he's going to have them do. That's what they did last year. Like I said, with questions along the line, offensively, you just have so many questions. Not sure what the rushing attack's going to be. You're putting a lot on a journeyman quarterback. Gardner Minshew played phenomenally last year with the Colts, but we've seen him come in and spot start, and then we've also seen him start the whole season with expectation. Expectation, for some reason, it just puts too much pressure on him. And then they did make some questionable decisions. They used their first pick on another tight end after taking a tight end last year. To be honest with you, man, you got to feel bad for Devontae Adams. This was not his picture in his head, or the picture that was painted to him, that he would be on to his second coach. He would be on his third quarterback. His best friend and buddy from college would be traded away. This just is not what he was anticipating when he signed with the Raiders. So this is pretty much a rebuilding team, so that kind of sucks for him, but he's one of the players who they respect. AP, I think they will buy into his coaching. He's a leader. He was a leader as a player. He understands the mindset of a player. I just don't think the off season and the draft went very well for the Raiders, especially in a division when you have Justin Herbert and Patrick Mahomes. Without a quarterback, you just cannot compete. So I have the Raiders finishing 5-12 and picking in the top 10 next draft. Next up, we have the LA Chargers. Again, they're in somewhat of a rebuild themselves. They're transitioning to a head coach, a new offensive philosophy, which should help Justin Herbert. Justin Herbert, instead of him being just throwing the ball 50 times a game, they're probably going to try to cut that, maybe down in half, maybe up to 30, but they're going to run the ball. They're going to be physical. The one thing that you do like about the Chargers that you don't like about the Raiders as well as the Broncos is we understand the direction of what the Chargers are doing. The Raiders, like I said, the drafting of another tight end, it just somewhat confuses you. But with the Chargers, you're drafting a right tackle to build this offensive line, to run the ball in Greg Roman's system. You went out and you got both the former Ravens who played in this system with Gus Edwards and J.K. Dobbins. They played in the system. Dobbins is coming off of injury, so we'll see if he makes the team or see how everything goes there. But Gus Edwards is a bowling ball of a man, and he is going to be able to score, especially once he gets down in that red zone. So that's going to help Justin Herbert because they do not have a ton of weapons at wide receiver. So I can see this team winning some games due to their defense. Obviously, they always do have health issues when it comes to their defense, but they do still have a very talented defense with Derwin James, Khalil Mack, Joey Bosa, Asante Samuel Jr. So you do have some nice pieces on defense. To see where this team goes, I still believe the Chargers are going to be a season or two away before they're able to truly compete. Year one is going to be all about setting the foundation. Year two is where they should be trying their damnedest to be challenging the Chiefs. He's going to turn the Chargers around. Harbaugh is going to turn the Chargers around. That's what we know because that's what history tells us about him. This is what he has done. He does have Navarro Bowman now coaching his linebacker, so I anticipate some active linebackers, instinctual linebackers. Herbert may be the best quarterback that Harbaugh has had since Andrew Luck at Stanford. So like I said, I expect more simplistic throws, some nice reads for Herbert, getting him on the move, getting his feet set, allowing him the ability to use that big arm and take shots when they're there. Next up, we have the two-time Super Bowl winner. The back-to-back, three-time attempting the three-peat Super Bowl champs, the Kansas City Chiefs. Like I said, I think everyone believes this. The Chiefs should win the AFC West again. this seems like that's what Mahomes does since he's been there. That seems like that's all he does is win at least the AFC West. He seemed like they always host the AFC Championship outside of last year. The Chiefs do open the season against the Ravens. They're hosting the Ravens and then the Bengals in their first 2 weeks. They also play the Texans, Steelers, Browns, and the 49ers, who should all deploy some stout defenses. So the Chiefs do have a tough schedule, but with this team, how they operate, I got them going at 14-3. I think this is going to be a completely different offensive philosophy when you have the speed now that they have with Xavier Worthy and Hollywood Brown. You're going to couple that with the rushing attack that they have with Pacheco. That's going to open up Kelsey and the young tight end that they just drafted to groom, for Kelsey to help groom. This team is just going to have weapons everywhere. They're going to have players who've been in their system. They have speed everywhere. They just re-signed Miko Hardman, who's another 4-2 guy. We do know Rashee Rice will possibly be facing some type of suspension, but by the time he comes back, this team collectively should be clicking. Andy Reid is a great play caller. I think them coming off a bye going into week 7 at San Francisco, I just don't think San Fran's going to be able to beat them. I think the Chiefs just mentally are going to have it with San Fran. I know a lot of people think that it's going to be best that they jump on them early at teams against the Chiefs. I just don't see it. I just think the Chiefs are going to come out this year and be locked in and focused on making history. We are seeing, yes, they have had some issues. Another player just had a cardiac episode. So they are facing some turmoil early, but it's just going to make their thin skin thicker. It's just going to make them more focused. I truly believe, and I think Patrick Mahomes is going to chase that three-peat to do something that Tom Brady has never done. So when it's all said and done, he may have something that Tom Brady won't have, which could help his argument within the GOAT thing, the GOAT conversation. But the Chiefs do face 5 of the 6 top AFC teams, which could be a good thing for them, depending if they win or lose. Especially once they go to the playoff, they're going to be battle tested early on. So the Chiefs could be heading to the playoffs with a ton of momentum. Like I said, they do want that three-peat. I have the Chiefs 14-3. Mahomes, in my opinion, he just forces the other top tier quarterbacks to play under so much pressure, and especially in the playoffs. Those young AFC quarterbacks, it's like he just makes them buckle, and it's crazy how they go within the especially in the playoffs. So next up, we have the AFC South, which could be a division that's open. They play the AFC East and the NFC North. In my opinion, the Texans are the team that strengthened their roster the most during the offseason, not losing any coaches. That means they have chemistry and the continuity. They have C.J. Stroud. He should continue to grow. The Jags have been a team, and it just seems like they've been underachieving since Trevor Lawrence has gotten there. There was so much expectation around him as the number 1 pick. He was supposed to be the next Peyton Manning, all this stuff, but it just seems like they have underachieved since he's been, and I'm not really sure what it is, but when you have a quarterback who's supposed to be a transcendent quarterback, this just really hasn't worked out for the Jags. The Colts brought back their core group of guys on offense and defense. They had a really solid draft, and the Titans had a great offseason building around Will Levis. He has some really good veteran wide receivers, but how long will that take for them to get on the same page and learning a new playbook? How fast will the defensive players gel? How fast will they get chemistry? How fast will they get continuity? Are they going to use L'Jarius Sneed the way he was used in Kansas City? A lot of times we think just because you have this big name player, if you don't use him how he was used to have that big name, you just have another player. So first up, we got the Tennessee Titans, and I know Titans fans are going to say I'm being this and I'm being that, but I'm being unbiased in all my critiques of the teams. they had a really good offseason bringing in some big name players. Will Levis showed promise last season, but he is in his second year. Will be learning a new offense. He has another coach again, and he no longer has Derrick Henry. I'm not discrediting Will Levis. I think he has a powerful arm. I think he's a big quarterback. I think he is very gifted. I also think that one of his issues coming out was decision making. It's easier to throw against one-on-one coverage when you have defenses packing the box because you have to stop Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry is gone now. You have a ton of questions on your roster. Yes, you do have L'Jarius Sneed. I already stated how you're going to use him. Chidobe Awuzie, he should be a very solid corner. You have secondary, you have questions in your safety position. You have questions in your linebacker position. Offensively, you drafted a predominantly right tackle, and you're going to transition him to your left tackle. So there could be some growing pains there. So you're dependent on a rookie changing positions in a very, very that's a tough transition. That's a tough transition. His slide, his kick step, all of that now has to be done from the opposite side. So his muscle memory is all right side. So how well will he translate there? Not to mention, the Titans have a rookie head coach. He's coming off a year in a team in which he had Joe Burrow, T. Higgins, Jamar Chase, and Joe Mixon. How well will he be able to implement what he was able to do with those type of wide receivers and D-Hop and Calvin Ridley, who's still getting his feet back under him, and Tyler Boyd? Boyd is used to playing with Joe Burrow. Calvin Ridley has played with Trevor Lawrence last season, and then Matt Ryan when he played with the Falcons before his suspension. All three of those quarterbacks, I believe, are better quarterbacks than Will Levis. So how well will the timing be? Tyler Boyd, who plays in this system and knows how Joe Burrow likes things, will his muscle memory get him going to doing certain things and it being a costly mistake in a game that leads them to 6-10? To be honest with you, Titans fans, I went back through this again because I had them at 4-10, but I did have, like I said, I did go back and see based off the schedule when certain games are played that they will be able to steal a few games here and there. Your rushing attack, like I stated, is going to look completely different. You're used to having the big bell cow back. Now you have two kind of scat backs. And we saw what Tony Pollard was when he wasn't behind that stellar Cowboys offensive line. So how well is he going to be in Tennessee, who still has offensive line questions? This is just – it's going to be a good, tough season for the Titans. The AFC South is going to be in a position very, very soon where it can be open year in and year out, which is one of the reasons why I think the Titans splurged and got some of these big name players, because I believe this is going to be their foundational setting year. Another reason why I have the Titans going 6-10, this is not Vrabel calling the games. Throughout his tenure as head coach, he made a lot of game-winning calls, whether it was taking a delayed game, taking a penalty, accepting a penalty, things of that nature, like literally by being like a nerd of the game, knowing the rules, knowing the ins and outs. A little bit of their schedule, they play the Packers, the Jets, the Dolphins, the Lions, the Bills, and the Bengals, who all have better quarterbacks or better rosters than the Titans. Another reason why I have them 6-10. 6-10 is not a bad start for a first-time head coach who's trying to install his system, his culture, his attitude. Like I said, this should be a solid foundational year with a lot of promise. I'm not saying that because you're 6-10, you're getting dog walked every game. I think the Titans are going to be competitive, but I do think there's going to be a few games, maybe early, maybe late throughout the season where one hiccup cost them. Next up, I have the Jacksonville Jaguars. I have them going at 10-7. Oh, here we go. The Jags play 7 playoff teams. They open the season against 4 of those playoff teams. excuse me, Jacksonville has underachieved, like I've stated before, with Trevor Lawrence at quarterback. They made some very good additions, in my opinion, to the offensive line, and they got more bodies at the wide receiver position. One thing that we tend to forget about Doug Peterson's offense is it's tight end based. Evan Ingram was phenomenal for this team last year. When Peterson won the Super Bowl in Philly, Zach Ertz was the leading receiver at the tight end position for that team there. So while I do like the additions of Gabe Davis and Brian Thomas Jr., this offense is still going to somewhat run through Evan Ingram, in my opinion. They're going to be able to take shots now because they do have some speedsters, but it's still going to run through Evan Ingram. Trevor, and he's also in a contract year. He could command $55 million. That's going to affect his team tremendously moving forward. They picked up ETN's option. I imagine that's to keep Trevor happy type deal because they're buddies from college. Not sure there. But the Jags have not been going into the season focused on playing football. If that's the case, I think the Jags can go 10-7 or even 11-6. The AFC South is a division that is, in my opinion, on the rise when you look at these teams. The one thing about the Jacksonville Jaguars that, just from a football standpoint, a fan of football, has bothered me is when you look at the quarterbacks who were in this division. You had Deshaun Watson, and then he was going through all his issues. The Titans had Ryan Tannehill, but they were pretty much ran by and through Derrick Henry. The Colts had Carson Wentz, Phillip Rivers, and Matt Ryan, and declining, aging Matt Ryan. All that time, Jacksonville had Trevor Lawrence, and were not really able to do much of anything as far as make a true push. Making the playoffs, one team's got to make it from each division, so they're already decent odds for that, especially, like I said, when you're going up against some of those sorrier quarterbacks. In my opinion, I think Jacksonville and Indy are going to battle it out for second and third in the AFC South. So with that being said, I have the Colts one game ahead of Jacksonville with 11-6 because the Colts, they have continuity across the board, defense and offense. They had a really good offseason by bringing back their core group of guys. When you have your young quarterback who was hurt, but he was playing well before his injury, although he did get hurt, I think, just about in every game it seemed like. But obviously all these record predictions are based off of the fairy tale land of everyone staying healthy. Chemistry is big. You have Shane Steichen, who showed that he's a great offensive play caller. The offensive line is playing back to what it was before. And another thing that people may not know about the Colts is Jonathan Taylor and Anthony Richardson did not play a lot together last year. JT held out with his contract issue, and then when he was able to come back, Anthony Richardson was hurt. These guys are able to play together now, which is only going to make that rushing attack that much better, which is going to open up things downfield for a player like A.D. Mitchell, who is a phenomenal deep threat. He has good size, good speed. In the last 2 years, with all the wide receivers who had at least 100 catches, he had one drop pass. That is big. He shows up big every time that he plays. In big games, he makes big plays. That's going to help stretch the field. That's going to help get the safety out of the box of the rushing attack. That's going to help and open things up for Michael Pittman and Josh Downs. And it's going to allow some good competition with Alec Pearson. We'll see how everything goes there. Defensively, the Colts had 4 players with at least 8 sacks, and they finished the year with 51 on the season. Liatu Latu was, in a lot of people's opinion, a lot of draft experts, college experts, he was the most NFL-ready pass rusher with the deepest counter moves in this year's NFL draft. So you add him there with what was already a solid defensive front, that should help the young secondary, especially those young corners. Bringing back Kenny Moore and bringing back Julian Blackman really helps things out in the secondary because those are two veteran playmakers back there. We still have Zaire Franklin, who is a tackling machine. EJ Speed as well. We brought back Grover Stewart. A lot of people may forget as well, Grover Stewart was suspended for 6 games last year. When you look at this defensive line and this front seven from the linebackers up, this is a really talented team when it comes to being able to stop the run and get after the passer. Now, I do believe that their young secondary will be able to get beat, especially against games when you have a ton of weapons. Unfortunately, the Texans and the Jags have a ton of weapons, as well as the Titans have a ton of weapons, and the Dolphins as well. But the one thing I think the Colts do have going for them as far as a favorable schedule, they're playing 6 first or second year quarterbacks. That's beneficial. That's beneficial because you can stop and confuse young quarterbacks. You're more likely to get a young quarterback to make a mistake than you are a wily vet. And then next up, I have the AFC South champs, the Houston Texans. I was high on the Houston Texans when the season ended. I just loved C.J. Stroud and what C.J. was able to do, how he played. And then when they did what they did throughout the offseason, I think they had one of the better off seasons. Now, they played 7 playoff teams from a year ago. They added another wide receiver, a dynamic guy, Stephon Diggs, that's only going to help out the offensive rookie of the year, C.J. Stroud. They also gave him a running attack with Joe Mixon, who should be able to see some nice lanes when you're deploying Stephon Diggs, Nico Collins, and Tank Dell. You have Dalton Schultz at tight end. They have three really, really, really good tight ends who are possession, who Brevin Jordan is more of a speedster guy and a vertical threat. And then they drafted Rucker this past draft out of Ohio State, who is more of your traditional tight end, move the chains type guy. So this offense is going to be nice. They have a really good offensive line, maybe the best or top 3 left tackle, one of the best left tackles, maybe 2 or 3. I don't think he's better than Trent Williams. But this team, that's just on the offense. Defensively, they already had the defensive rookie of the year, and they added another all-pro type of edge rusher in Danielle Hunter, opposite of Will Anderson Jr. Their defensive line in the interior is going to be stout. They have young athletic linebackers. They brought in Azeez Al-Shir, who played phenomenally under DeMeco Ryans when they were both with the San Francisco 49ers. So this team is going to be tough. And some of the trades that they made, getting out of the first round, really allowed them to pick up a lot of depth players. So they're going to have depth across the board. They're going to be in a very good situation cap-wise coming when it is time to pay the Houston Texans. They did a lot this season. I think is going to translate, obviously barring injury. Pretty soon the AFC South is going to have some really, really, really good quarterbacks. When you look at Anthony Richardson and what he's capable of doing, Jacksonville with Trevor Lawrence and what he should be, C.J. Stroud for what he was last year and what he should continue to grow into, and Will Levis. If all of these quarterbacks continue to develop, this could be a very tough division moving forward. The Texans, in my opinion, are still one of the teams that I feel that can compete with the Chiefs, and I believe that before free agency started, before they had Stephon Diggs, before they had Danielle Hunter. So I still have the Texans going 13-4. Next up, we have the AFC North, which, in my opinion, this is probably the most physical division. This is probably the best division, and all of these teams are capable of being playoff teams. Joe Burrow gets injured last year, kind of derails the season. The Steelers, the Browns, and the Ravens all make the playoffs. I don't think there's ever been a time where all 4 teams of a division have made the playoffs. I don't even know if it's actually possible, but one of these teams can have a winning record and miss out on the playoffs. One thing we do know about Pittsburgh, Mike Tomlin has not had a losing record since being the head coach, and he just resigned. Joe Burrow's coming back from injury. The Bengals have a lot of questions. T. Higgins situation, the Trey Hendricks situation. Obviously, Joe Burrow's health. They do still need to pay Jamar Chase as well. The Steelers, they are ushering in a new offense and potentially 2 new quarterbacks with Russell Wilson and Justin Fields. We'll have to see how that works, what that dynamic is. The Browns, you're bringing back Deshaun Watson and Nick Chubb, both from season-ending injuries. You did keep all of your defense of players outside of Anthony Walker, but you do have players on the roster already prepared to step into the middle linebacker position. You still have Jim Schwartz, who is a fantastic defensive coordinator. This is going to be a top defense. There are potentially all 4 of these teams could have top 10, top 15 defenses. The Bengals, we'll see what they really begin to look like. They did lose DJ Reader, so we'll see where everything goes there. But these teams definitely could potentially all showcase, like I said, top 10 defenses. First up, we have the Pittsburgh Steelers. And I know I said that Mike Tomlin has not had a losing season. And I think the schedule makers must have heard me because they have a brutal schedule, especially late. Their last 11 games, the Steelers faced the Jets, the Eagles, the Chiefs, and all 6 of their divisional games. That is going to be a daunting task for this team, whether it's Justin Fields or it's Russell Wilson. That is going to be a gauntlet for this team. And that's where I think they're going to have their most trouble. That's where they're going to have their most issues. They open the season against 3 rebuilding teams, so they should get confidence early with they're traveling to Atlanta. Then they play the Broncos and the Chargers. Depending on what you think of Russell Wilson, they should beat those teams. Like I said, I think the Steelers defense will keep them in a lot of their games. They should have a very, very, very aggressive linebacking core. They're going to be able to chase the ball with Patrick Queen and Peyton Wilson, who can also line up at edge depending on the health of TJ Watt. This team, I wouldn't be surprised if they're able to sneak a 1 and it's a 9-8 opposed to an 8-9 season. But that, like I said, those last 11 games, the Steelers could just get exhausted. That's playoff football, their last 11 games. They can go undefeated up until those last 11 and miss out on the playoffs because that's where all those divisional games are. And you're not going to sweep everyone in your division. Next up, we have the Cincinnati Bengals, they have a more favorable schedule. They have a lot more favorable matchups than the Steelers do. 6 games against teams in which they either have a new coach or a new quarterback. Very winnable games against the Raiders and the Giants. They played 3 rookie quarterbacks, 2 second-year quarterbacks on their schedule as well. So those are very winnable games when you have a more veteran-led team like what Cincinnati is. Even with Joe Burrow returning from injury, the T. Higgins issue, the Trey Hendricks concerns, it's just hard to find a ton of losses on their schedule. Again, this is based off everyone being healthy. We know that it's impossible. Football, someone's going to get hurt. But whoever wins the AFC North is most likely going to be the healthiest team. Like the Bengals, I do have them finish 11-6. It's going to be a very, very, very grueling task to win that AFC North, which that's probably one of the most, or should be the most exciting division in football. Like I'm ready to watch all of these games. There's going to be some hitting going on during these games. Next up, we have the Cleveland Browns. They showed last year that this team's defense is one of the best in football. I've already stated that. Just about everybody's coming back. The Browns should still be one of the top defenses. This should be a top 3 defense. They're going to start the season against the Cowboys team, who very well could deploy 2 rookies on their offensive line at 2 very key positions. Again, one is transition from left tackle to right tackle. In his first matchup in the NFL, he will be going up against Myles Garrett and Zadarius Smith. They're going to give Dak hell in week 1. Then they travel to Jacksonville, which is another winnable game before hosting the New York Giants, which should be a demolishing of the New York Giants. That the Browns did add some nice pieces. They added Jerry Jeudy, and I think that's a really good pickup when you pair him with another technician at route running, Alabama wide receiver, and Amari Cooper. I think one of Jerry Jeudy's main issues was he went to the Broncos when they had those young wide receivers. He didn't really have the older vet to kind of pull him in, show him how to be a pro, show him how to avoid the outside noise and just be about his business. But I think Amari Cooper, who's more of a quieter guy and just works, I think that'll be good for Jerry Jeudy. Now, the Browns, they have questions of their own when you have Nick Chubb and Deshaun Watson both coming back from season-ending injuries. Deshaun Watson, obviously, everyone's going to consistently mention the big contract. We'll see how things go with that. He has to perform. I think he was playing decent the game that he got hurt. So we'll have to see if he's starting back from scratch or if he was able to kick the rust off. This is an offseason in which his name has not come up a lot with off the field things, which is a plus for him. So maybe a lot of that pressure is off from the legal side. So we'll see how that goes. When you lose your starting running back and your starting quarterback and you still make the playoffs, this shows you how good this football team really is. The Browns could end up winning this division, and I would not be shocked at all if that happened. I currently have them going 12-5. I could definitely see them going 13-4. This is a team that is going to be very, very difficult to be able to run against. They're going to be able to get after the passer, and they have a lockdown secondary. The Browns, if their offense is able to give them very much of anything, and if Deshaun Watson is able to play at 60 to 70% of what he was in Houston, this could be a dangerous team. And finally, the last team of the video we have is the Baltimore Ravens. In my opinion, they are going to have to get back to what they were years ago when they had Jamal Lewis. When you add a running back like Derrick Henry to what was already a top rushing attack, you have got to feed him as much as possible. Now, there could come some issues with that because they lost 3 starters on their offensive line. So how fast can that line gel together? How well will Derrick Henry be able how comfortable will Derrick Henry be taking more handoffs from shotgun than the traditional back with the quarterback up under center? So we'll see how that goes as well. But if they're able to get everything going, the read option with Derrick Henry is going to force everyone to close down, which in my opinion is why Lamar Jackson lost so much weight this season. Last year, he bulked up because he knew he was going to, if he was going to run, he might have to run in between the tackles and whatnot. Derrick Henry should be able to do all of that now. So when the few times that Lamar does pull it, he should be skedaddling up the sideline, able to hit the edge. And with his speed and how dynamic of a runner he is, no corner or safety is going to want to see him in open field. The Ravens don't have much time to waste. They open up in what's going to be probably the game of the week. I think it might be the only game of the week, but they open up against the Super Bowl winning Chiefs, who are dropping another Super Bowl banner. In my opinion, the Ravens could be 4-0 heading into their first divisional game, heading into play Cincinnati. Now, like I said, we'll have to see how Todd Monken is going to utilize Derrick Henry and the RPO game. If he calls runs If he does not call runs like he did in the AFC Championship game, that really means why did we go out and get Derrick Henry? But defensively, the Ravens could struggle early on, especially because their defensive coordinator is 31. He's young. They lost some good coaches on this staff, but the players that they lost, yes, they did lose Patrick Queen, but they have Trent Simpson, who they drafted a year ago from Clemson, who is a pretty solid linebacker. May not be an all-pro, but then again, he may come in and playing next to and playing with a linebacker, the caliber of Roquan Smith. Maybe he's able to take him under his wing and truly help him grow. They lost their defensive coordinator. Obviously, he took the head coaching job with Seattle. But even with that being said, if you look at how the Ravens dominated the good teams last year, especially in the regular season, you have to have the Ravens with at least a 12-5 record. Like I said, the defense could struggle maybe against the Chiefs, but they do have some nice players that they drafted. Love the Nate Wiggins pickup. But overall, I have the Baltimore Ravens going 13-4, winning the division. This is a team in which it's all or nothing now. It's all or nothing now. Lamar, you already have the MVPs, you have the trophies, you have the individual accolades. When are we going to go get this ring? When are we going to go get this ship? And I think it has to be this year when you look at some of the things that happened, especially in the AFC alone. The Steelers, they're going to have questions at quarterback. The Bengals, they're going to have questions with health at quarterback. The Browns, they have questions with health at quarterback. The Ravens, you're the ones who have the most continuity there at the position. And regardless, healthy or not, he's probably first or second, debatable, I guess, between him and Joe Burrow. I'd say Joe Burrow is a better quarterback, but Joe Burrow hasn't been on the field a lot. Then when you look at the AFC East, the questions with the Bills, so the Bills may not even make the playoffs. We know that the Dolphins have not been a physical team, so if the Ravens meet them in the playoffs, they should be able to go. The main thing here for the AFC is going to be who can compete with the Chiefs, who can knock off the Chiefs. And there's really 3, maybe 4 teams in this division who may come to mind. The Texans, the Ravens, possibly the Jets, possibly the Browns, and that's just based off of what they have defensively. But we'll have to see how everything goes. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I truly, truly appreciate it. Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. I don't know if I said that at the beginning of the video. I have been talking for a good minute. So I do appreciate all of the love, all of the support. I tried something different on this video, so I'm hoping that it shows with better quality. It always shows good when I'm recording, but then it goes down after I get it uploaded, so I'm not really sure what that is. But hopefully I got it fixed here. But again, we'll see. If not, I'm going to keep rocking. Make sure you check out the Double D's podcast as well. We have some good things coming there. And we're about to jump in gaming as well. So if anybody plays Madden and wants to play the NCAA, I got a PS5. Drop your gamer tag and get at me. Let's get it.
Spazzing on the beat, they think I'm crazy. Got it under control, babe. You don't want smoke, all you see is the same.
LB tapping, keys in making waves. Ayy.
Step back, keep your distance. Ain't no telling what I just may do. I've been vibing, minding my business. Throw one up if you can relate to. Said if I ain't got it, I make do. Can't be stuck waiting on a breakthrough. And I don't need everybody praying for him. Ain't no telling who you niggas pray to.